let's turn back to what's dominated the news cycle, which is this Roe v. Wade leaked opinion. It's likely going to stay that way. Seems like the Supreme Court justices, the conservatives that were maybe wavering a little bit, are still going to vote to overturn Roe, and not in the more tailored way that Roberts would prefer, which is really just part of his branding at this point. I mean, if it came down to it, I think Roberts would join them. He's the third wheel, or he's the sixth wheel.
Yeah, I mean, it suits him to be seen dragged kicking and screaming into all this.
Right. And frankly, it's not too dissimilar from the way Susan Collins brands herself, or really the way Joe Manchin tries to brand himself. Functionally, I mean, it's kind of the inverse, but functionally it's the same thing. Joe Manchin was the lone Democrat to vote against the Roe v. Wade codification bill yesterday in the Senate. Here's Joe Manchin explaining ahead of his vote why he was going to vote no on the Roe v. Wade bill. It is just absolutely unconscionable, but predictable.
The bill we have today to vote on, the Women's Health Protection Act, and I respect people who support, but don't make no mistake, it is not Roe v. Wade codification. It's an expansion. It wipes 500 state laws off the books. It expands abortion. And with that, that's not where we are today. We should not be dividing this country further than we're already divided. And it's really the politics of Congress that's dividing the country. It's not the people. They're telling us what they want. And it's just disappointing that we're going to be voting on a piece of legislation which I will not vote for today.
I mean, just like the primary driving force behind his political ideology is just like the perception of divisiveness. Can you imagine being that shallow when really he's just a firewall for the right wing? So ensuring that even small amounts of progress do not happen in this country.
Yeah.
What he's talking about there with those 500 laws are likely unconstitutional, in my opinion, laws on the books that have been creeping, that have been instrumental in the right creeping towards outright bans of abortion up to this point.
It's part of the orchestrated campaign that got us here.
Right. The bills that require ultrasounds, so a woman has to look at her baby, even though in some of these states where they have 6-week abortion bans, it's microscopic at that point in a woman's pregnancy, so there's not much to look at there. But the act was designed to ban the 6-week abortion bans, the 20-week abortion bans, all of the abortion bans that violated Roe v. Wade. But what Manchin there was objecting to was the elimination of those over 500 state and local laws that would limit abortion access, like I mentioned, the ultrasound requirements, the waiting periods where you have to read pamphlets on how you're killing your baby, essentially. All of those things that create a burden on the woman if she wants to seek an abortion, that is what Joe Manchin is objecting to. But he hides behind, I'm against divisiveness. I'm about bringing the country together.
Let's leave it to the states because that's democracy, which, by the way, maybe Joe Manchin is reading Glenn Greenwald lately because that's the argument he's been making.
Right. So when you leave it to the states, those are the kinds of bills that he is protecting. Those are the kinds of laws that he is protecting. It's not about some sort of principle.
Yeah.
It is about, he is protecting the state's right to make a woman feel shamed for her abortion.
And we mentioned this yesterday, Sam did, and I mentioned it last night on Left Reckoning. But Montana, for instance, has the exact same sort of Roe privacy right to abortion in their state constitution, recognized by the Supreme Court. And the local GOP there is just going to replace all the Supreme Court members if they can't override it constitutionally. Yeah. Yeah,
Montana's an interesting state, but that's a conversation for another day. Susan Collins, Murkowski, they proposed an alternative kind of third way, if you will, abortion act to the Women's Health Protection Act. They were with Manchin and saying, oh, come on, you can't overturn states' rights and the laws that are there to make women feel like they're bad people if they choose to have control over their reproductive health. But it left all of the loopholes in place for more laws like that 500, those 500 laws that Manchin is so committed to upholding.
Yeah, it came from the same policy school that created the ACA replacement from the GOP. The, oh crap, we actually need something or else we're seen as awful and wanting to just get rid of people's rights.
So here's Bernie Sanders, an example of somebody who did the right thing here, talking about this bill on the Senate floor. We all knew this wasn't going to pass, but contrast his emphasis with Manchin's emphasis on, I don't want divisiveness and I'm in favor of state laws in principle, even irrespective of the like content of those laws.
Now I get very tired of hearing the hypocrisy from the extreme right wing who say, to quote, "Get the government off our backs." How often have we heard that? Get the government off our backs. We want small government. Well, I say to those right-wingers, if you want to get the government off of the backs of the American people, then understand that it is women who control their own bodies, not politicians. During the COVID crisis, how many times have we heard on this floor throughout this country the extreme right wing say the government must not force us to wear a mask? How dare the government do that? Government must not force us to have a vaccine. We have the right to do what we want with our bodies.
That's a hypocrisy that we have highlighted on the show before. And that is an example of somebody who's committed to justice and principles of humanity versus somebody who is committed to capital, in the case of Manchin, and also who falls back on, in service of serving capital, a commitment to abstract but largely meaningless principles in order to shield oneself from repercussions. States' rights is not a real principle. It's just not. Women's rights, human rights, rights of bodily autonomy, and fighting back against patriarchy, those are legitimate principles.
With regards to him making, there's might be a few people in the audience that are like, well, you've wanted to force people to get the vaccine. Nobody forced anybody to get the vaccine.
No.
The vaccine requirements were if you wanted to participate and like have people serve you, then you need to make sure you're doing as much as you can to take the virus seriously and stop the spread as much as possible. So that's like your right to make a fast food employee serve you with like not being vaxxed or masked, like, is not the same as obviously a woman's right to choose, which is just to spell that out for folks.
100%. I mean, I don't know if I speak for you, Matt, but I'm not in favor of, I mean, look, I don't know. I don't know if I would be in favor of mandating vaccinations for everybody or throwing or incarcerating people for that choice. I know that's kind of a straw man, but the right is in favor of, if a woman chooses to do what she wants with her body, well, she should probably be criminalized because that's murder.
Yeah, if an unwanted pregnancy is terminated, then the woman, or at least the doctor, is a criminal.
Yep. I was in favor, right, of compulsory vaccination requirements to participate in parts of society. But also, that was a very temporary thing.
Yeah, which a lot of those people wanted to act like it was the beginning of 1984.
Yeah, and now we're just back to normal, even in liberal, socialist New York City. So, yep, couldn't be a starker contrast between two senators there, Bernie Sanders and Joe Manchin.